Hey everyone, here's our latest video update on Typhoon Prapiroon on this Friday afternoon. System continues to move across the Philippine Sea, still inside the Philippine Area of Responsibility. It was last located approximately 740 kilometers east of Basco, Batanes, or about 730 kilometers south-southeast of Okinawa. Maximum sustained winds have heavy increased to 165 kilometers per hour with gusts of up to 240 kilometers per hour according to JMA. You can also see that the system has begun to move north-northeastward as forecasted yesterday, but still moving very slowly at 5 kilometers per hour, and we expect the system to start accelerating the next few hours. In terms of the winds here, in fact, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has actually upgraded the system to a Category 3 typhoon last night, with winds of as high as 185 kilometers per hour sustained. They have decreased those sustained winds as of their latest advisory from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. So if you go by their 1 minute sustained winds, the system is back to a Category 2 typhoon, and it actually is showing some slight weakening, but still nonetheless the system is very strong, very big and very expansive cloud shield here. The eye has become ragged and cloud filled compared to the image yesterday. If you watched our video, system has a much smaller eye, a much actually less discernible eye on the visible image. And if we look at the microwave image, you can see that the eye wall is taking a hit here, almost weakening and decaying, especially along the northern periphery of the system. We still have that pretty good low-level circulation center. Overall, still has a pretty strong signature here, but again, the recent images in the past 6 to 12 hours does suggest of at least slight weakening occurring inside our system. Now going to the infrared image, you can also see that we are starting again to see that breaking of convection along the northern periphery, and also the cold cloud tops that have been present yesterday and last night have since swarmed. You can see only green colors here in the infrared image. Usually we can see those red and even yellow returns on the infrared, indicating strong convective activity, but now the seems system is weakening slightly in the past few hours. Now as for the track, again, as we've said, the system is now moving on a northerly and even north-northeasterly direction, as has been forecasted by the computer models and also by the numerous forecast agencies out here in the Western Pacific. Now the system will continue to move generally northeastward. According to computer models, still very good agreement overall. You can see a consensus tightly packed on a agreement on a turn to the northeast, again across the trough, that weakness being brought by the trough out here along the Western Pacific. But again, we have to note that there are still some computer models and even JMA is still insisting on that system turning to the northwest in the next 2 days, even threatening the Ryukyu Islands, particularly Okinawa, as we head into Sunday or Monday. But for right now, the consensus is showing a northeastward turn, and if you look at the forecast agencies, we begin with Pagasa, and they are mainly going with that turn to the northeast, again moving very slowly and out here in the next 3 days, perhaps remaining inside the Philippine Area of Responsibility for at least another 3 or even 4 days, but again remaining well offshore to not really impact the Philippines. Now as for the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, again also showing a track to the northeast here, remaining a Category 2, or even they are forecasting this to regain intensity in the next 2 days, in fact becoming another Category 3 typhoon as we head into Saturday and Sunday. Again, you can see that their track is sort of agreeing with the consensus with the computer models, and they have been pretty consistent with this idea for the past 3 days, but you can still see that they are still somewhat uncertain. You can see a very big forecast cone of error still. You can see much of Ryukyu Islands and even Okinawa is still under that cone of error, and even parts of Kyushu and Shikoku still under that cone of error. Finally, we have the Japan Meteorological Agency, and they have been pretty consistent as well, but they are kind of the opposite of what the Joint Typhoon Warning Center and the other models are showing here. They are also showing a northward turn and then turning more towards perhaps moving just east of Okinawa, perhaps moving near the Daito Islands as we head into the early to middle part of next week. So compare that to the other forecast here from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. They are definitely much more west, because JMA's forecast would be right over here, perhaps passing between Okinawa and the Daito Islands. So still some disagreements overall, even though we are heading into the weekend. The steering factors out here in the Western Pacific, and the system is now moving generally northward, on that weakness being brought by this trough that is now moving across southern Japan. This trough will move to the northeast quickly. Now, Japan Meteorological Agency seems to be banking on the idea of the westward extension of this subtropical ridge to at least influence Prapiroon to turn northwestward slightly, perhaps moving near Okinawa. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center is saying that they think that this subtropical ridge is not going to be strong enough, or at least not going to be dominant enough to actually influence a major turn to the northwest. Still, until we can get a pretty good idea of the strength and overall intensity and influence of the subtropical ridge, and also the trough that is moving in this region, we will still see this disagreements between the numerous agencies out here in the Western Pacific. So again, even though the consensus that we've been showing from the computer models are painting a track to the northeast away from the Okinawa Islands, please keep in mind that much of the Ryukyu Islands are still under the forecast cone of error from much of the agencies. So I would suggest that the residents out here keep a close eye on the developments of Prapiroon. Either way, the system will still be moving very slowly anyway in this region, so if it does impact Okinawa, we won't feel its effects for at least another 2 to 3 days. So we still have some time to iron out the forecasts for this typhoon. Finally, we take a look at the Western Pacific here. Here we still have Prapiroon dominating the image, but you can see much of the Western Pacific, much of Southeast Asia, for enjoying clear weather. Some isolated thunderstorms as well, particularly here in the Philippines. Southwest, we have the southwesterly flow being enhanced by Typhoon Prapiroon or Bagyong, bringing some isolated thunderstorms, and even some reports of heavy rains and urban flooding out here in parts of Visayas and even here in northern Mindanao. But those rains are isolated, spotty, and not really that widespread. But even then, areas that will receive this rains should expect brief flooding and even some landslides. Now out here along the eastern part of this image, you can see this convection still firing off here just west of Marianas and even across Guam and parts of the Marianas Islands, even from Yap Island. Also expecting some rain showers out here throughout the next 2 days. Look at the radar from Guam. This is from the National Weather Service. You can see those widespread rains moving across the northern Marianas Islands, staying mainly north of Guam here for the moment, but the airport here have reported periods of light to even heavy rains in the past 24 hours. Stations here are reporting around 30 millimeters of rain or less, but out here to the north, Rota and even here in Saipan reporting some periods of heavy rains in the past 24 hours. In fact, some of them have reported up to 50 millimeters of rain in the past 2 days out here, again due to that rains moving in. Still gonna be expecting those rains to linger on for at least another 2 days here. This is the part of the invest. We've been watching 90W out here, not expected to develop again. Doesn't really have a clear indication of a low-level circulation center. Computer models not really showing any strong and significant development either, but we will again continue to keep watching for any significant threats. This concludes our video update for today. Continue to check out this official agencies for their official forecasts and warnings out here in the Western Pacific weather. Stay safe, guys. Bye.